When planning for retirement, there are many questions to consider. How much should you defer? How should you allocate your assets? What about withdrawal rates? Now, while these are all important things to consider, one topic that tends to be forgotten is inflation. Joining me is Kevin Sullivan with Infinite Wealth Advisors in High Point, North Carolina. So, Kevin, while inflation really hasn't been discussed much until recently, it's something you always have to address as part of a retirement plan, isn't it?
So, the issue of inflation is an erosion of your ability to spend. So the same dollar that you spend today and buys a dollar's worth of goods, it's going to take, at current rates, it will take $1.08 to buy those same goods next year, or you're going to be able to buy 0.92% of what you bought for that same dollar next year. So part of the planning process is to integrate inflation. Now, you can't anticipate an 8% inflation forever. We typically build 2 to 3% inflation. In times like this, we have been revamping plans all year, increasing distribution rates, but we've accounted for that because we're very conservative about how we are decumulating assets. Generally speaking, though, inflation is something that should be integrated in every single plan, and your advisor should be light on their feet to be able to integrate that and adjust for those years when you do have high inflation, so that you don't get yourself into trouble during that decumulation or retirement income distribution phase.
Inflation can be part of a double-edged sword when we combine the loss of purchasing power with declining asset values in the market. So how do you plan for that with your clients right now?
Well, I mean, dealing with the reduction of assets, because and reduction of assets happens for a number of reasons. One, you're drawing out or you're decumulating more than you anticipated because of the inflation number, and then you can add to that, unfortunately, market volatility. When you're seeing these wild 500,000 point swings in the market. So our 40-60 rule applies here. If you're managing the finances, which is the 40%, the behavioral finance should be managing itself. We find that the emotional piece of you is probably going to be concerned that you're losing money in the portfolio. Our perspective is that there are some bargains in the marketplace, and you need to be prudent enough to be able to determine what they are, when to execute on those, so that you can benefit from them in the long term.
With current inflation now outpacing the return from traditional fixed income sources like bonds and CDs, what other alternatives are there right now?
So alternatives for inflation, so there are several just off the top of my head. One is you can use annuities, and some annuities will have an inflation adjustment built into them, into the distribution piece of that. You want to be careful about the types of annuities that you're acquiring. Traditional annuities, single premium immediate annuities, you're not really going to be in a position to be able to get an inflation rider on those. And the underlying asset is typically going to be dormant, so you're not going to have any earnings on that underlying asset while those distributions are coming out. There are other products. There are index annuities. In some cases, there are fixed annuities that do that. But generally speaking, index annuities are an excellent way to accommodate that, because the underlying asset does have the potential to generate some earnings while you're making those distributions. So while you're taking out, you're also adding to the underlying asset base.
That's Kevin Sullivan in High Point, North Carolina. And this is Retirement News Online.